Children of the elements, the Genasi have had an interesting history. Starting off as a playable race with 4 different types of Genasi to choose from, you'll have hard decisions to make. Each has its own set of unique abilities and traits, so you can't go wrong no matter which one you pick, though we all know. You're going Fire Genasi because you just can't help but set things on fire. The Genasi first appear in Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition in the Planewalker's Handbook, released in 1996, and while they aren't a monster you'll have to worry about fighting, you do have to worry about what they are going to think of you. The Genasi are one of the new Plain Touch playable races, which include the Aasimar, Barrier, Githzerai, Planar Half-Elf, Planar Human, Rogue Modron, and Tiefling. Plain Touch races have evolved over eons, and how many of them came into existence is a mystery. What we do know is they are part human and part, well, something unknown and planar. Of the Plain Touch, the Genasi are the most arrogant and think that all others are beneath them, so now you know what they think of you, a mundane, non-magical human. Though you are in good company. When we say all creatures, we mean all creatures, and this includes other Genasi that aren't of the same element or that are of the same element. They even look down on proper elementals, including genies and primordial beings. But we suppose we can understand why they might be dismissive of other people. They are often thought of as alien and strange and mistrusted because of their elemental-like appearance. Their appearance often takes on elements of their, element, and it even influences their personality. Fire Genasi may have skin the color of coal, or red hair that looks like flames, and be hot-blooded with a fiery temperament. Thanks to their close connections to the elements, which they couldn't hide their physical connection to even if they wanted to, they know they are different, and they relish their uniqueness. There are 4 types of Genasi for the 4 basic elements that make up the inner planes: air, earth, fire, and water. The air Genasi may be the most arrogant of the bunch, and that's saying something. The result of the copulation between a human and such creatures as Jinn, Sylphs, and Spirits of the Wind, they are known as Wind Dukes. You could find one being raised by the Jinn or living among the humans who call the elemental plane of air their home. You may even be able to call one a friend, since they can form such relationships as long as you don't mind your friend thinking you're inferior to them. Air Genasi care little about their appearance. Even so, we are confident they look fabulous with their unkempt, wind-blown hair. Their skin is light blue, which is very cool to the touch. They have a breathy voice, and a slight breeze always seems to swirl around them. Their clothes are usually ill-fitting and torn, and probably due to floating on the winds of this plane. All this gives you a hint about their personality. Beyond being aloof, they are carefree and chaotic, not giving a crap what others think about them. If you hope to play as one, you get a +1 bonus to your dexterity intelligence, but a -1 penalty to your wisdom and charisma, and you can cast levitate once per day. Earth Genasi have a close connection with the earth and are most commonly the result of a union between a human and a Dao. It's rare because the Dao wants nothing to do with creatures of the flesh, and we can only assume that Lepidaries are the only ones with interest in the Dao. Dao find Genasi weak and unworthy, which is why you'll find Earth Genasi living among humans most of the time. We suppose we can begin to understand why Genasi think they are better than everyone else. It's a defense mechanism for being cast out by their elemental parent. Earth Genasi, also known as Stone Princes, are rough and tough, with many to be hewn from the rock itself, which is fitting since they have a natural armor class of 8 instead of 10. Some Stone Princes may appear to be dirty and unkempt from digging in the dirt, while others are impeccably clean, much like a polished diamond. They all have some common traits: brown leathery skin, eyes black as night, deep voices, and they like to take their time thinking over problems carefully. If you play as an Earth Genasi, you get a +1 bonus to your strength and constitution, a -1 penalty to your wisdom and charisma, and the ability to cast Pass Without a Trace once per day. The Fire Genasi are the opposite of the Earth Genasi in many ways. Their passion and tempers run hot, and they are quick to action. They rarely take more than a few seconds to think through their choices, preferring to charge headfirst into the fray. Fire Genasi, known as Fire Lords, are the result of a human and such creatures as a fire spirit or a freed. If you think that being cast out of your elemental parent's society was bad, know that the Fire Genasi have it much worse. Their fiery parent will attempt to murder them at birth. A lucky few are absconded by their human parent and live among us. Unlike other Genasi, Fire Lords are deeply concerned about their appearance and will always look fashionable and groomed. Don't get us wrong, they don't wear flashy clothes or gaudy jewelry. Fire Genasi prefer understated black or red clothes and accent items complementing their appearance that typically includes deep red or black skin, blazing red eyes, red hair that looks like living flames, and more. If you're attracted to the idea of always being warm, Fire Genasi get a +1 bonus to their intelligence, a -1 to their charisma, are immune to non-magical fire, and have the ability to cast affect normal fires once per day, which As you probably guessed, that allows you to control fire. Our final Genasi are the Water Genasi, also known as the Sea Kings, which really puts them at the top of royal-sounding nicknames. As kings are wont to do, Water Genasi are very independent and unique in attitude and personality. They are typically abandoned by the human parent, probably because humans don't breathe water very well, and also by their water elemental parent, typically a Nereid or a Merid, probably because they're really busy singing in The Little Mermaid. Left alone at sea, a lucky Water Genasi will be adopted by another creature, which includes dolphins, whales, merfolk, and tritons, though not every baby will be lucky, and they may be adopted by less savory creatures such as sharks, Sahagin, or even Ixchitl, but at least they have someone to call mom or dad. Most Water Genasi have subtle differences in appearance from their human parents, though they'll at least have bluish-greenish skin, clammy skin, black eyes, tiny scales covering their body, or hair that waves and sways like they are constantly underwater. Luckily, they can breathe water as if they were breathing air since they have no gills, and are pretty good at swimming. If you play as a Sea King, you get a +1 bonus to your Constitution, a -1 penalty to your Charisma, and you can cast Create Water once per day. Regardless of what type of Genasi you are, they are very connected to their element, and priests or wizards can only take dedications that somehow tie into their element. Like an Earth Genasi priest can only be dedicated to a god with a domain focused around the earth, while a Water Genasi wizard will have to be an elementalist focused on water magic. In addition, they all gain bonuses saving throws against effects that deal with their element, so Fire Genasi get a +1 bonus for every 5 levels to fire-based saving throws. To top it all off, all Genasi are driven to overcome any challenge and prove to the multiverse that they are destined for great things. Terrible, maybe, but great.
The 3rd edition Genasi first appear in the Monster Compendium Monsters of Faerun from 2001 as a creature your party of murder hobos can kill. Why Faerun, you ask? It turns out most Genasi are conceived there. Creatures from all planes, shapes, and sizes pass through this setting, where a resident of the elemental plane and an ordinary human can, well, copulate. The result is a Genasi of one type or another, and they spend most of their lives alone in the wilderness of the Faerun. The Genasi in this source book are mirrors of the previous edition, with the lore not adding anything new, but rather just a copy and paste of what came before. The abilities are updated to this edition, though it remains largely the same. We do learn, however, that the Genasi can now be more than just fighters, priests, and wizards. They can also become sorcerers, druids, rogues, and any other class you might want them to be. Luckily, you only have to wait 4 months until June for the release of the Forgotten Realms campaign setting from 2001, with information on making a Genasi a playable character, though it isn't much different from before. They have the same bonuses and penalties to their ability scores, they have the same unique abilities, and more. What we do get are a few clarifications that the Genasi are considered a powerful race, so if you wish to play one, you are taking a 1 level penalty to your character. So if you are making a 3rd level character, they will only have 2 levels in their class. 3rd level will be tied to your race. The Genasi, along with all other plane-touched races, have 3 innate traits. First, charm spells that specifically affect humanoids, like Charm Person and so on, do not affect Genasi since they aren't people, but outsiders. Second, when a Genasi is targeted by a spell or effect that would only affect an extraplanar creature, they too will be effective. For example, if someone casts the Banishment spell on a Genasi, it would work normally since the spell removes an outsider from the caster's home plane. Third, because they are considered natives of the Faerun, a Genasi can be raised or resurrected normally. That's a big deal, as when an outsider dies, nothing short of a wish spell can bring them back to the land of the living. In Dragon Magazine number 293 from March 2002, we are given a roadmap about using the Genasi in your campaign in the article The Elemental Plane Touched by Sean K. Reynolds. This article focuses on providing new role-playing information for the Genasi, as well as reprinting the racial abilities from the Forgotten Realms campaign setting book. Some of the new bits of information include things like how the Air Genasi are often mistaken for sorcerers with a penchant for air magic, which we are sure Air Genasi are more than happy to look down their noses and sneer at such uninformed observers. In fact, many Air Genasi can trace their bloodline back over 9,000 years to the Jinn who created what is now Kalishman, a desert nation in the West Faerun. Others can trace their bloodline back to various servants of air deities like Ural, and even to a powerful air method sorcerer. Earth Genasi are known for being ridiculously strong, but don't always put that strength to good use, sometimes becoming bullies. They often cause fear in other creatures, but also they are one of the few Genasi that can actually form powerful bonds with other Earth Genasi, similar to how some might form a bond with their soulmate. Not to be outdone, the Fire Genasi can also trace their roots back to the Ifrits that rule Kalishman, But they don't care about such things, so they don't. They do just want you to know that they totally could if they wanted to. For them, life is to be lived to the fullest, and reminiscing about ancient history is just dull. Many people, though, do believe the fire genasi are descended from devils and demons, maybe because they are known for being so hot-headed and using their power to further their own goals, even if it ends up hurting others. Water genasi don't see too many changes to their ideology, as they remain patient and independent of others. They are loners, often going years without seeing other civilized races, let alone another water genasi. There are evil water genasi that actively hunt down others. Vicious and bloodthirsty, they were often raised by Sahagin to be evil and cruel, raiding ships and terrorizing sailors. Though there are stories of water genasi that come to the aids of sailors who find themselves lost, trapped in storms, or under attack by pirates, so these genasi aren't all bad. If you ever thought that 4 genasi just wasn't enough, Dragon Magazine 297 from July 2002 introduces the Paragenasi. A Paragenasi comes into existence when a genasi gets together with an elemental or genie from a different element, creating a genasi that is in between the two elements. For example, if a water genasi had a child with a djinn, that could very well become an ice Paragenasi. This is a pretty uncommon situation, no doubt helped because genasi are often loners, but when it does, you'll end up with 6 extra type of genasi. From the union of earth and air, the dust Paragenasi are a sarcastic and macabre bunch. They have pale skin, hollow cheeks, and dark circles under their eyes, often with a cloud of dust swirling about them. They can create clouds of dust that cause others to begin choking. If you instead mix air and water, you get an ice Paragenasi. They are pale in color with sharp, defined physical features, and are often thought to be emotionless and cold. They can cast chill metal once per day, which is similar to heat metal, but, with cold. The love children of earth and fire produces magma Paragenasi, who spend much of their time pondering questions about life. They are short and stocky like the earth, but their fiery side gives them a glowing skin, red hair, or burning hot skin. They can cast heat metal once per day, which is like chill metal, but hot. If you combine earth and water, you get instead an ooze Paragenasi, who kinda looks like mud. They are wide-set and flabby creatures with mucky skin and look like a tar monster, which makes some sense because they tend towards evil. We recommend not getting close to these creatures as they can cast grease once per day, which will probably end up with you looking similar to them. If you instead want to combine fire and air, you get a smoke Paragenasi who is tall, lean, and likes to accessorize in drab and gray clothing. They are often called crude and lazy and typically smell of smoke or something burning. Once a day, they can create a smoke cloud, probably using it to disappear in dramatic fashion. The final Paragenasi combines the elements of fire and water, creating the steam Paragenasi. They are often bossy and egotistical, often thinking of themselves as far prettier and superior to others. Mist often swirls about them, and they have a light gray skin, allowing them to blend into their obscuring mist that they can cast once per day. Our last book is The Races of Faerun from 2003, which features just a bit more information about the Genasi, but is mostly what we've already learned. Air Genasi are most likely to run into another of their kind, and they will use that circumstance to brag about their great deeds. Earth Genasi like to find pieces of land and claim it as their own, becoming quite territorial. Some people use this to their advantage, hiring them as homesteaders in frontier regions. Fire Genasi often flit from class to class, getting bored as they advance in their chosen class and then finding a new class to start advancing in. Lastly, the Water Genasi like to ridicule aquaphobic creatures, which are mostly dwarves, often splashing them with water or dunking them below the waves as a prank.
The Genasi are first introduced in 4th edition Forgotten Realms Player's Guide, released in 2008, as a playable race with 5 different options. Oh yes, this edition doesn't just have the canonical 4 elements, but a 5th element, Storm. We aren't entirely sure that a storm is an element so much as air and water, but we'll let it slide this time, because they look cool. Before we talk about what you get as a Genasi, let's address a very important change for all Genasi. Every Genasi has all of the elements within them, but they simply manifest a different element. As they get older, a Genasi may learn to manifest another element, though only a rare few ever learn to manifest more than 2, and you can't manifest 2 elements at the same time unless you are very powerful, so you have to pick one. What this means is that Genasi often manifest an element based on where they grew up, as a fire Genasi wouldn't be able to survive in an underwater city, so most will manifest as water soul Genasi. What your first manifestation will be is based on what your elements your parents manifest and what you'd need to survive in whatever location you're in. When a Genasi manifests a different element, their physical form undergoes changes as well as their personality, but what stays the same are these ley lines of energy that crisscross their skin. These energy lines appear in a pattern similar to their family, but are wholly unique to that Genasi. When they manifest different elements, these energy lines remain the same, which we imagine is very helpful when trying to track down a Genasi criminal, and they keep swapping out what manifestation they are after a short rest. On top of swapping out what element you manifest, your physical appearance changes to match. Their skin tone and hair are the biggest changes, and we say hair in quotes because Genasi don't have hair, but rather elements that they manifest to take on a hair-like appearance. The 5 types of Genasi are the Earth Soul, who have brown skin, golden energy lines, and are typically bald, the Bronze-skinned Fire Soul, with fiery orange eyes and energy lines along with flickering flames for hair, Storm Soul, which manifests with purple skin, silvery energy lines, and crystalline spikes on their head, Water Soul, that often have seafoam green skin and bright blue energy lines, though they are typically bald, and the last manifestation, the Wind Soul Genasi, have silver skin, light blue energy lines, and blue and gray ice spikes for hair. Along with each manifestation giving you different bonuses to saving throws that deal in some way with their element, you also get a unique power. Earth Soul Genasi get the ability Earth Shock that allows them to knock their enemies down, while the Fire Soul gains Fire Pulse, which allows them to get immediate revenge on those who hit them by setting them on fire. Storm Soul get the Promise of Storm ability, which bolsters their lightning and thunder damage on subsequent attacks, while a Water Soul can shift up to their speed, which allows them to avoid any attacks of opportunity that their movement would trigger. The final manifestation is for Wind Soul with the Windwalker power that lets you fly once per encounter, which is really handy when the party TPKs and you need to get out of there fast. In Dragon number 367, released in September of 2008, the Genasi are given a very thorough examination and ecology of the Genasi by Rodney Thompson. This provides a very deep look at the history of Genasi, their psychology, physiology, culture, and society, as well as their relationship to primordials and magic. There's a lot in there, but we have a lot to cover in this edition, so we're just going to hit the highlights. If you want even more Genasi information, we encourage you to track down this issue and read through it. The history of how the Genasi race came to be is lost to time, but most sages agree that it came about from pacts and dalliances made between ancient humans and elemental beings such as the genies. Genasi, while they may be an ancient race, have never created massive empires like tieflings and dragonborn have. Instead, they created city-states that have had difficulty expanding their control beyond their walls. Those glowing elemental energy lines that identify each Genasi are called Sizzledar, which allow Genasi to pinpoint what family you come from and what elements you can manifest. Lastly, Genasi are known for their outbursts of emotion and chaotic actions, though it is something they can work and keep under control. However, difficult situations might still see their personality explode to the fore. If you are wondering when you'll finally get to fight the Genasi, Monster Manual 2, released in 2009, offers 5 stat blocks for you to test your elemental might against. They are the Genasi Elemental Dervis, a master of all elements and can manifest all of them throughout an encounter, Genasi Fireblade, who wields fire and blade to devastating results, Genasi Hydromancer, that controls currents and can create vortexes in water, the Genasi Sky Spy, that flits through the air, flying in for quick attacks before flying out of your reach, and the last is Genasi Stone Shield, a powerful defender who can take a beating and give it right back. In addition to the stat blocks, we also learned that Genasi were originally servants of Djinns, Ifrits, and other powerful elemental beings like the Primordials, though they soon rebelled and gained their freedom from the Primordials who originally created them. So in response, the Primordials created a new type of elemental, the Archon. Whereas Genasi were formed from humanoids and elementals, the Archons are fully elemental, which is great since the divine gods can't convince the Archons to turn on their primordial creators, like how they did with the Genasi. Dragon number 380, released in October 2009, gives us a new elemental manifestation with the Abyssal Genasi in the article written by Peter Schaefer. You get 4 different elemental manifestations with the Caustic Soul, Cinder Soul, Plague Soul, and Void Soul. Each of these is focused on decay and destruction. The Caustic Soul deals with acid, giving you additional ways of harming your enemies with the caustic element. Cinder Soul is a death of fire, allowing you to reduce how much damage you take by reducing the fire within a creature's heart. Plague Soul is the bringer of death and disease, granting you resistance to poison and a special power that inflicts poison on anyone who begins their turn near you. Void Soul, our last manifestation, is the absence of will, granting you resistance to psychic damage and the ability to suddenly become nothing, allowing you to escape your enemies for a limited time. Due to being considered a corrupted Genasi bloodline, Abyssal Genasis are shunned and cast out of Genasi society. Though maybe the Genasi shouldn't be so hasty to cast stones, as legend states that when the Genasi originally emerged from the elemental chaos, a tiny bit of evil from the abyss was planted into their creation. Deep within every Genasi are these foul elements just waiting to be unleashed. You really have to hand it to demons, they can inflict anything with just a touch of corruption and evil. Our last two books, The Plane Below, Secrets of the Elemental Chaos, released in 2010, and Player Options, Heroes of the Elemental Chaos, released in 2012, provide some information on the Genasi, though much of it is a repeat of what we've previously talked about in this edition and past editions. The biggest things include providing example settlements that are Genasi run, as well as some extra feats and powers that Genasi are most likely to take. Our favorite Genasi run settlement is the trade city of Gloamnull, located in the Elemental Chaos. It is a city stuck in a permanent torrential downpour that suddenly appeared over the city a decade ago. No one knows why it always and constantly rains, but ever since the rains, the near constant attacks from giants, elementals, and other creatures have slowed down considerably. Before the rains, the city was close to being overrun and destroyed, but we guess the rains have blessed the city with some prosperity. Although, anyone who does any type of investigation into the city will find that the rains come from a much darker source. A source that needs sacrifices to ensure that the city remains safe.
The Genasi are first introduced in the 5th edition in the adventure Princes of the Apocalypse from 2015 and the Elemental Evil Player's Companion from 2015, a player-facing supplement for the adventure that offered new races more befitting to an adventure focused on the elemental planes, primordials, and cultists. We are back to just the 4 core Genasi with Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. Sadly, the element of storm has gone and faded, just as the energy lines on the Genasi have faded. Genasi are back to looking mostly human-shaped with different skin tones and a few extra features that link them to their element. Their hair is back as well, but it isn't like it's anything cool. It's just a different color than normal human hair, and from the pictures, a lot of hair gel went into styling it. Air Genasi have blue skin with white wispy hair, and a faint breeze accompanies them wherever they go. Earth Genasi features more muted colors, but not always. They could have gray, deep brown, or black skin, have more earthen-like texture to their skin, or it could be polished like a gemstone. Fire Genasi have flaming red hair that flows like flames, with red to black skin to signify coals. The last, the Water Genasi, often have blue or green skin, with waving, free-floating hair, though many of them often appear wet, as if they just got out of the pool. Their old abilities are back, and while we like those powers, we can't help but be jealous of what they had in the previous edition. Air Genasi can cast Levitate once a day, Earth can pass without trace each day, Fire gain the Produce Flame cantrip and can cast Burning Hands once per day, while Water gains the Shape Water cantrip and can cast Create or Destroy Water once per day. In addition, Fire gets Dark Vision, Water can breathe air and water as well as gain a swim speed, Earth can ignore difficult terrain made of earth or stone, and Air can hold its breath forever. Some of these abilities are cool, but they aren't exactly exciting compared to what they had once for a brief edition. Beyond what abilities they get, their lore changes back to them being offspring of genie or other powerful elementals, and from being born during major events around the elements, like a raging forest fire or a great storm at sea. Their genie parent, which is the normal and most common way of producing Genasi, don't want to hear from them and abandon them when they are young. It's up to the humanoid parent to raise the Genasi, though we can imagine that many of them struggle when the baby Fire Genasi starts setting their house on fire every time it gets cranky and wants a nap. Apart from the base information on them, little else can be gleaned about the Genasi. Fortunately, the Genasi do show up again in the Monsters of the Multiverse from 2022. Wait, did we say fortunately? We meant unfortunately because the Genasi only show up in the Monsters of the Multiverse. All of their general lore is reduced to a single paragraph, just talking about how they are descendants of Genie and that they represent the 4 elemental pillars of the material plane. Luckily, their mechanics get a teensy bit better, with the Air Genasi gaining resistance to lightning damage and gains the Shocking Grasp cantrip as well as the Featherfall spell. Earth Genasi gain Dark Vision, which seems like a major oversight before, as well as new cantrip Blade Ward. Fire Genasi also get something new, and are capable of casting the Flame Blade spell once they get stronger, while the Water Genasi get the Water Walk spell so they can walk along its surface without issue, and they get Dark Vision. It's a bit better now, but we can't help feel as if this edition has left them by the wayside, especially since they only get one piece of art that is reused across several different books. It would be nice for the Genasi to be given just a bit more, or for them to appear in a monster manual or something like that. Whether they are the offspring of elementals or infused with elemental might, the Genasi are a race of people affected by the magic of elements. While they often might be mistrusted by others as having some sort of demonic corruption, at their heart they are as pure as their manifestation, as wild as the wind or as hot-tempered as fire. They are creatures of basic elements and represent that there is a wilder world outside the material plane. All you have to do is just step through that portal and adventure across the planes.
If you enjoyed this look at the Genasi, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel, as well as share the video with your friends. We appreciate any and all support.